And welcome to another episode of the TheCivShow podcast. I'm your host, Moisos.
Raising Zozo.
And Nystagmus.
And we suck, so you don't have to. This is take two. Because my OBS just decided not to work, and nothing was outputting. It was really, really strange. But hopefully it's all managed now. Last session, to summarize, Raising Zozo squeaking out a victory as the Gaul Empire over Georgia, over Scotland, and over Byzantines on a Highlands map. Zo, take us through the victory mindset of the Gaul.
So first of all, Moy, thanks for the introduction. For those of you that can see me in the studio today, I look a little red. This is Mr. Creek. Normally he's got the full ensemble.
Oh, milady,
yeah.
milady.
The feather in the cap.
The feather too.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Mr. Creek is one of my alter egos that perhaps some of you will meet one day when you venture into the third realm. But that is why I am dressed a little different today. I had just had a session. So now back to the show. The Gaul. You guys had the Gaul to declare war on me simultaneously. I was so proud. I was so proud. Like, you guys
Proud
thought I was upset. I was so proud because it was like exactly when you needed to do it. It was like about the last chance you would have had. I think before I really started revving it up. And you all declared war. It was all three, so you got the CPU involved.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, though, the Gaul have such fantastic production. And not to mention, I had earlier built the statue of Zeus, and you attacked me with a lot of horses, gentlemen, a lot of horses. And I remember being very confident when you declared war. Like, I was excited. You know, I went obviously a little bit of quiet as I was excited. I was like, all right, this is good. All right, this is going to be a fair fight to start. Until, of course, the mighty Zo War Machine stopped building other stuff and started building military. Most of my cities were able to pump out, at least 3 of them were able to pump out a pike and shot, 1 a turn. So you guys made some headway for sure, and then I just pushed back. I retook, or would have been a turn away from retaking Candy, the city that you had taken from my suzerain. And yeah, it was a fun game. Like, there wasn't a lot of war, but until the end, which is always a great way to end the game. And I think, like, it was fair to say that game wouldn't have gone on. It definitely would have been harder for me to push, but unfortunately my technology was the best among the 3 of us. Scotland had some good tech, but Scotland didn't really get involved. If they had attacked, it would have been something. But I was able to push you guys back relatively quickly. Not quickly, but within 5 or 6 turns, I was able to control my field and then start pushing against you. So because Moy was so behind in tech, I think his cities, it wouldn't have taken me that much energy. You definitely would have held out.
I don't think so.
You would have held out, but I had bombards. I had field cannons. You just, unfortunately, I don't even know what you did.
I don't know what I did either, to be honest with you. I don't know what I did.
You had, this is our opportunity to show VectorCat that maybe Georgia is not that bad. And you built 3 cities. It wasn't even.
I was confined to this mountain area. You saw it. There was 2 ways out, or a third if you count the lake. But let's be honest, you're not building or researching cartography in that game, at least early on, right? So I had 2 ways to go, and then the second age, the classical, or no, after the classical, so the medieval age, I hit a dark age, and I lost my city. No, it was the classical age, I think, the first age, and I lost my city. And so I had 1 city, and I had to build military with low production, low science, and take it back. And I built walls in that city too, and so I had to build a battering ram as well. And it took so long to just finally get it back that I was so far behind at that point that it just didn't matter. My goal was to go religion, full religion, and then have that translate to a military, which then go into like just take over everybody's campus. That was kind of the mindset that I had. I couldn't do it. Like I regret the way I played. It was not the best. I wish I could do it again. Because I don't know if, especially in that mode, Georgia's definitely not F tier, but they're not that great either. I mean, if you get your golden ages, like if you're you and you're really good and you can get your golden ages, sure, they're probably fantastic. But if you're me and you don't understand anything, then it's hard. It's a hard civilization to play.
I think I kept my golden age every era.
You did, yeah. I wanted you to hit a dark age so badly because then it would have changed the whole game.
It would have. I might have lost some fringe cities, and by the time we wrapped up, I believe I had 3 wildcard policy cards because I ended up building the Forbidden City, and I was Owls of Minerva. So I ended up with like 3 different crazy stats for all my golden age stuff, and it was crazy. I think the biggest game changer for me was the first golden age that I was able to get cards. For a good long time, I used the one that gives you +4. Each of your cities that has a wonder gets a +4
culture. Yeah.
And I had my wonders pretty well distributed, so it gave me like a +12. So it like effectively like doubled my culture. And then it was like, oh yeah. And then I started getting, and I like so. Gaul. The culture of Gaul, it's just so glorious. Like, I didn't even build a theater until much later in the game, and I think I was always a good chunk ahead of you guys in culture. Mm-hmm. And then you add to that every time you train a unit, you're getting 20% of its value in culture. So you're getting all these little culture bombs from that, and then you get your culture bombs from building mines. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. This is easily now, I think, top 3 contender for favorite civs. It was just, it's a civ that I think the abilities really, they complement each other really well. And it's not just from the civ itself. It's just like in general, in civilization, production and culture are important to everybody. Okay. Everybody, even if you're going science victory, you still need policy cards. Okay. You still need policy cards.
Yeah.
So the culture of the Gaul, it's kind of passive. It's just working in the background. You're going to build military units anyway, so you're going to get that 20% bonus. Your mines are all making culture, and I found that my city populations were fine. I was able to build very large cities, and then I had some sweet engineers going.
I want to know if we didn't play on a Highlands map, how that at least would have affected your culture generation, because like you said, you never had to build a theater square. You had just a ton of mines, and you did. There was a ton of mines.
I did. So
I wonder if.
And I wonder if that also affected your production too, right? Like,
well, you had a ton.
So many.
Well, my
I had a lot of production too.
My Opidums are pretty fantastic for culture, but like gotta remember, like once I get Opidums, I need ironworking. And ironworking also unlocks apprenticeship, and apprenticeship gives +1 to all your mines, I do believe. So like that's at Iron Age, so that's very early that you're getting this substantial production bonus.
I just also think like some of Gaul's like abilities for their units kind of hard counters how it hard counters cavalry and it hard counters melee.
Just you can't invade Gaul at all, I don't think.
Right? Because
it's impossible.
What you have to do, I think, I want to know whether this would help, would be because of that bonus they get to every adjacent military unit, friendly or enemy, would be you just have to build like a ton of ranged units. Right?
That's a good point. But then even in Highlands, they can't shoot over hills, so they have to be beside them anyway.
That's also true. But yeah, that might be a strategy to do, or horse archers are only a specific civ has those.
Yeah, ranged archers are only for it's not a generic class of unit. Only like Scythia,
field
Mongolia.
Field cannons should be able to shoot over hills, right?
Maybe
no, they only have 2 range, so they would not. I don't think.
I think you just need line of sight.
Maybe if they're on hills,
really?
they can shoot. Maybe, I'm not sure. You might be right. But yeah, you're right. So, the like they're good at fighting in swarms. If you over swarm me, what you really need, like, so one easy counter for the Gauls would probably be the Romans, because they get a 40 attack unit pretty quickly, right? With the Legionnaire. I even with my +10, that's, you know, Legionnaire is gonna come and smoke me. So that means they could kind of maybe go in where they don't need lots of guys beside them.
I think the Greeks would be really good at that then, because their hoplites get +10 bonus for just one unit beside it. So that would be really good.
So it's basically units that use the phalanx. That counteracts it because they get bonuses for guys beside them.
Yeah,
and that counteracts the bonus that the Gaul get for them being beside them, right? So it kind of balances it out.
The key thing for that though is that they only need 1 unit beside it, right? They get 1 unit beside it, so you only like send these in pairs of 2s essentially, and they get the full bonus. So then they limit your bonus too. Maybe that's like the only way to really fight them. But then it's in the same era as the whatever your unique unit, the Gaziste.
Yeah.
And then they get +10 for stronger units.
They get a plus.
So it doesn't matter.
10.
It just doesn't matter.
It's a base of 30. So because your phalanx starts at a higher number, that helps, right? So what do they start at? Like at least 24.
I'll look it up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
They're at least a spearman, which I believe
they replaced the spearman. Yes.
So they're probably higher than that. They're probably like a 30 or 28 or something. With their +10, yeah, that'll do, pig. That'll do.
So they just negate each other's bonus.
Well, I think that they would negate it, but
25 melee. 25. Melee.
So because of that 5 melee over my 20, they would still have a +5 over me, unless I had some extra adjacent ones.
Like I said, I think one way to do it is like Gaul, like Byzantines are clearly like an offensive civilization, right? Like they have a lot of powers that make you want to attack and they reward that. It rewards attacking. Gaul is the exact opposite. They have a ton of powers that allow for defense, right? They get an extra defensive structure.
Yep.
And so really, I think the way to beat them is not just to try to conquer them, which is just to out-expand them, because once they try to attack you, they're out of their comfort zone.
Maybe.
Yeah, they're definitely not indestructible by any means, the Gaul. It's just their abilities, I think, are very complementary in a way you don't always see. Like they're very synergistic in a way you don't, and it's just because production and culture are also just super useful for every civ. Everybody needs culture and production, and the way they use them, it works really, really well.
They're just very turtley. It's like you can sit as the Gaul and win. But then you can't attack them early because of the Gazete. But then you can't attack them a little bit later because of the industrial zone also having the defense bonus.
And very likely they are going to have some advanced government, right?
Yeah, right.
Very likely.
Yes.
So they're likely dealing, having their 4 slot a little sooner, their 6 slot a little sooner, maybe even an era sooner, or not an era,
unless you're against like Greece again, because if you're Gorgo, you get like culture whenever you kill a unit, so then you can kind of like maybe creep your way up there faster,
right?
Like basically if you get like a big bonus to culture right away versus yours is kind of like accumulative over time, because it's one culture per mine, so you need a lot of mines and a lot of units before you can kind of really accumulate that. But like if you play I guess them and Gorgo are kind of like up there, they can kind of stay the same pace, but yeah, I don't know. Now I'm talking about it, I don't see it happening.
Well, and then the other thing that is kind of neat about the Gaul is that almost all of their abilities they get in the ancient era. And their ability, like, so it's not that they get them in the ancient era and then they go obsolete. It's that they get them in the ancient era and now they're just going to get them. So they snowball. Even the Gaelic warrior that they get, the Gazete, Gazete, okay. It's just so useful because you get it right away. So right off the bat, you're getting 4 era points, by the way, because you just built your special unit.
Yeah, right off the start of the game.
Right off the start of the game, you're getting it. And they're just so convenient because most of the barbarians you're going to encounter are going to have a base higher strength than you. So they're great against barbarians. They get that +5 to districts. I think a barbarian camp counts as a district. I could be wrong.
It does not, because like you can just run over it. So that wasn't making any sense.
Sure. It's not Gaelic, it's Gallic.
Gallic. So because of that, though, most of their abilities, they get them right away.
Sorry, Gallic.
They're going to pile through, and it's just going to accumulate, and that's just great. I love a Civ that gets most of their stuff right away. But that's not to say that the Byzantine didn't put up an interesting fight. We actually got to see them do their thing.
Yeah, well, how did the Byzantine, how did they feel? How did you like
I don't know. That Dark Age hurt me so much.
I feel your pain, my brother. Yes.
I think the problem I had was I did my thing with the religion. I was pretty happy about that. So I got the work ethic and the type of religion you wanted to do. In fact, actually, Moy, just to let you know, I was actually going to go for religious victory when I saw that Zoe was so far ahead. So Zoe was like, hey, bring your religion to me. I was like, oh, so he's letting me. So then my goal actually was to just convert you, and then I was going to convert Scotland at that point. Mm-hmm. And by that point, I would have had 2 holy cities converted.
But then weren't the Scottish also converting your cities?
No, I pushed them back.
Okay.
In fact, the only time they were trying to convert Zoe.
Oh, okay.
And so I sent that when you saw all those missionaries, they weren't scouting. They were preparing to start converting all your cities.
You're such a liar, dude. At least I have honor where I won't lie to your face. I won't do that. I'll just make up some lie. I'll moy it up, as you guys like to call it. But I'll tell a story, but I'm not gonna lie to your face. Damn, that's twice, bro.
You literally just said you would lie.
No, okay. I meant I would tell a story. I wouldn't lie to your face. That's what I meant. My bad. I think I did say that. So
I did tell you a story. My story was that they were scouting.
No, but that's a straight up lie.
I gave you Vector Cat's story.
I would say how they're on my missionaries are on a mission to go around the world. I would give you a whole background. I wouldn't just.
Yeah, see, I lied. I'm not annoying though.
Hey,
whoa, touche,
hey.
Touche.
So you're saying that every time Zoe tells a story, it's annoying?
No, he's saying that when you do your moyism, it's an act of annoyance because you end up going on this tirade that we think means something important, and then it doesn't mean anything at all, or something completely opposite of what we thought, or just pointless.
That's just storytelling, baby. I mean,
by that time, though, in my defense, and by that time, I thought literally the only way I could win that game is if I did a religious victory. By that time, right?
Yeah.
When Zoe basically said, "Hey man, convert me," I'm like, "Okay," because you would be the hardest person to convert if I tried to, right? Because you would be the one who could put up a lot of a fight, and attack me and just start killing me because you had a bigger army. But Moy was easier to convert. He didn't have as many cities. If I could get his holy city, then that would just be a stack on top of that.
I think at the end of the game 7 cities, and I didn't launch an Inquisition yet, so maybe you could have. But I also had I did have a lot of faith generation, so it would have been tough. It would have been pretty tough.
I was generating more faith than you though.
Per turn, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe. I'm not gonna take it.
And my theological combat's stronger than yours.
Oh, very true. Very, very, very true.
So, I was actually converting. I was starting to convert Scottish cities now too. Scotland wasn't really giving me all that much of a fight when it came to religion.
Okay.
So
now, when you Byzantine, when you overcame, the CPU easily, or sorry, the city state. You did your thing, but the attack on me, you brought horses to a pike and shot fight.
I was relying on him so much.
To be fair, I backed off because all you built were pike and shots, and I literally only saw one. Right? So I thought maybe I could kill it.
You attacked that one with 4 units.
Yeah, and it didn't.
It didn't die. It didn't die.
I didn't know it was gonna be that strong. And so here was my plan. My plan was basically a V formation, hit that city right in the middle, and then set that up as my defensive perimeter, because pike and shots may be able to kill my cavalry units. They're not great at taking cities, though.
No, they're not.
No.
And so that was my plan. But your pike and shots were way stronger than I thought they would. As soon as that happened, I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So I just backed off completely.
You did.
And so, You can't blame me. Almost all of my civilization's abilities revolve around cavalry units.
It's true.
But you need a mix. You need a mix no matter what, right? You don't need that many tagma. I think you just need well, if you build all one unit, you can easily get countered. Like, that's true. That's true.
They're free, right? Like, yeah, right. So like, that was the main reason. Like, they were free. They weren't costing any maintenance, and if they died, I didn't spend any production on them or anything like that. Like, I just built a hippodrome, which helped me keep my cities from hating me and stuff. And so I was just flexing that ability. Honestly, whenever I get a new civilization and it's something I haven't played before, I like building the special unit just to see what it can do.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
And so found out, I guess I can't rely on its abilities because I thought my goal was build as many free units as possible and just overwhelm with I knew my units weren't good against the pike and shots, but if I had just had hordes of them, right, then it would be irrelevant.
You were doing the killbot ratio strategy.
Yeah, that was the strategy.
Love it. I love it.
If I hit that bullseye, the dominoes will fall like a house of cards.
Like a house of cards. Now, unfortunately for you guys, I built the new wonder that game. I was able to pull it off. Yes. Statue of Zeus. What a wonderful, expensive one. 400 production, first of all, in a standard game. That is as much as Petra. So that is I think the most expensive ancient wonder.
You get it in the classical era, though.
Is it class? I don't know.
You get it late. It's late.
Military training is it's
the first one in classical training.
Maybe. Okay, sure.
I'll check, and it makes sense that it would be a classical era wonder, by the way, right? But
I believe you. Classical era.
It should be hard to get though. It's 400 gives you a lot.
Yeah, is a lot. So I had that. I wasn't sure how it was going to work. Just here you go. Here's a stack of 3 spearmen, and here's a stack of 3 archers. And then you guys had forgotten this later in the game. I was like, oh, you're attacking me with cavalry. Okay. I get plus 50% production for all of my anti-cavalry, right? I remember that oh yeah moment that the both of you had when you remembered that. And I was just pumping out pike and shots. So I had the 3 that were upgraded from the Statue of Zeus, and then I had the just being able to build them.
Yeah, I'm not used to that being applied to land units. I'm used to that being on the boats, right? With the Phoenician arsenal, but I'm not used to that being land units.
Love it. I love it. I love that they made a wonder that's worth building, which should always be the goal. But that one is even if you're not going to go domination. That's a good amount of units to defend yourself.
Yeah,
that's a good amount. If you're gonna go science or something like that, okay, religion, you want to get that. So that's obviously a high sought get to the choppa wonder that you definitely need to try and get to and race to. And I went all out. I was chopping. I changed all my policies for either production or wonders. And I pull and it's not easy because it's a barracks. You have to build in a barracks, and it has to be on plains. So those are flatland. So that is flatland. Those are some pretty heavy restrictions for a classic wonder to make sure you have set up. So you have to make sure you had that, and I didn't. I had to actually scramble because I knew I thought it was an encampment. I didn't realize it was a barracks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that delayed me building it a bit. Luckily, I had cool engineers that helped me build wonders. So,
dude, so lucky. My biggest mistake. So I was building the terracotta army, and I was 1 turn away from it, but I stopped building it because I'm like, oh, let me get a few more units out before, let me get 1 more unit Kevser out before I finish it, just so I can have that extra bonus. So I delay it, building my Kevser. My Kevser finishes, and then Scotland built it. And I'm like, oh my god. And then that would have boosted all my units, and then all the levels that are above level 1 gives me era score, so it would have been a ton of era score, right? That was the whole plan around it. It just didn't matter. So I would have sucks.
Moy's biggest mistake was selling 2 cities in 60 turns.
Drugstore totally nailed you, Moy. It's so true.
I still think I had more cities in Mystagus at the end of the game. I think
at the end of the game, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I had 7 cities.
I think 7. Yeah,
I think most of the game I was at
honestly,
5.
what I should have done was convert the stupid city-states and just gobble them up. Yeah. I should have just did that. Yeah. I should have just done what Germany never does, right?
That would have
and then dared you to stop me, right? Dare you to stop me, basically.
Yeah.
Be the
bully. All my that would have because we threw on at the last minute. We threw on the secret societies, and I had owls. So yeah, if you took out all my city-states, that would have been a big penalty for me.
They are comically easy to take over once you convert them to your religion as Byzantine. Like it's comically easy.
You played your religion right. You did all that really well. Because you went crusade, right?
Yeah, I evangelized my belief to crusade.
You got that late though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did because no one else got it.
Because you have to evangelize to get it.
Yeah.
I could have taken it from you, but I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I would just take it. I'm like, just take it. I wanted you to have it.
Yeah, I did, and I did the God of the Forge for my
units?
Pantheon.
Classical ancient units.
That's a risky one. Plus 25 production, right? For
ancient and classical units.
You should have 100% went to war right away. Are you kidding? Holy moly.
Well, because I went to a dark age and I had to take back my city.
Yeah. So, you know what? That's great segue. Let's talk about this new era mode. Dramatic eras.
I'm seriously considering. I think the computer waits for you to build walls, and it only makes the cities that you built walls on rebel. Because that's what happened. It was a border town, right? So the town bordered Scotland, so I built walls on it first. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to build walls there first because they're going to obviously attack that first if they attack me. I built walls, and I went to a dark age, and it rebelled. I was like, okay, well, that just sucks.
That's what happened to me too.
And so, yeah, that it hurt. It hurt a lot because you're like primary. And then I had to deal with 2 barbarian encampments south of my capital that were just like tons of units. They're like just units were coming out of nowhere. I had to like basically move my entire army down there to stop them.
So this was a today I learned moment. You know when that barbarian scout like comes to your land and then you see like a little exclamation point above his head? So basically that scout, like as soon as it sees the exclamation point, it basically has like, it sees your land, right? And it's going to run back to the barbarian encampment. If you can stop it. No, so this is for people who don't know that.
Oh, okay.
So if you can stop the scout before it reaches the barbarian encampment, good. If you don't, then it's like every turn that camp is spawning a barbarian, and it's spawning specifically the units that counter the same units that are in your military. If you have a bunch of melee, it's going to spawn a bunch of cavalry. If you have a bunch of cavalry, it's going to spawn a bunch of spearmen every turn or every like other turn. And that's where you get like, oh, I'm overloaded with barbarians. That's when you know they didn't take care of that scout. That's when you know someone didn't take care of that scout.
Scout, and that the 3 scouts of scouting, that is, you got to scout to know where the other newer stuff is, then you got to scout to know where other scouts are, and then you got to murder scouts. Okay, that's the 3 scoutings of scouts. That's like what Scouts Honor really means. That's for the Scouts Honor. Okay, that's what it really means.
Scouts Honor means that you have to murder.
Well, you got to scout. Pray. You gotta scout.
I'm gonna tell my troop about you. No, you're not.
Scouts, and you gotta kill the scouts. Otherwise, that's why all of a sudden you get hit with where are all these barbarians coming from.
I'm getting overloaded with barbarians. What's happening?
Can you imagine getting attacked like that just after a dark age? Like you just lost the city, and then on the other front you got a bunch of barbarians swarming in.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me.
Nice.
And that's what delayed me too, because when you're doing that, you're also trying to build military units right away, so it stops you from expanding, right? So you can't build as many settlers, and it's hard to expand cities anyway when in a dark age because the loyalty pressure makes it difficult to do that.
Yeah. And so when I had a dark age, every single tile that if I expanded anywhere was like -20, and I'm like, oh my god, I couldn't do it. Yeah. It hurt,
especially if your neighbors are in a golden age.
Zoe,
and especially when especially when you're neighbors with Zoe, who's like in a golden age plus 20 or something like that.
50,
every time. I think I hit the golden age every single time.
You did.
So you guys gotta play the era game. The biggest
I was
thing
like
for
too
me
short, if I remember.
The Apidea was a really big one for me because just the extra Caesarean bonuses are great. But then when you add, just the little things like you get a +1 every time you build a tech. You get a +1 every time you build a policy card.
Civic.
So I think
I should have
honestly,
focused on that. Yeah.
If I were to go back in time and play that game, when I didn't get owls, just start killing city states. Right. Yeah. I had like 3 on my borders, just kill them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because then I had owls too, so me and Zoe would have been like, "Oh shit."
So that didn't happen. I was looking for owls, and I met like all these city states, and I just never got it. Like it was stupid. I met like the Void Singers the Hermetic Order like the very first time.
Of course.
It's like it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna meet them, and they suck. That's why they suck, because it's like 100% guaranteed.
That's why they suck so much. They're always just like, "Hey, you want to be my friend? Do you want to be my friend? How about you want to be my friend?" No one wants to be my friend anymore.
No one likes the Hermetic Order.
This is the No Homers Club. It's No Homers Club.
I get that reference. That reference.
We're allowed to have one.
Yeah, but
and you didn't
so
vampires.
I went back in time, but that was very interesting. It did put me out of my I'm a very, if I'm going to go by the type of player I am, I'm a very SimCity player, right? I don't like war all that much. I don't like, being aggressive all that much. I like carving out my own little area of the map and then just kind of, building up my cities and stuff. And so that's kind of like my play style. But Byzantine is you have to be aggressive. Like you can't just like sit around and do nothing. You have to do something.
It's like the Aztecs. Yeah, you have to go out.
Yeah. When I took Candy, I should have just been like, okay, well, Singapore is now mine, and so is what was the other one that was there?
Zanzibar, I think.
Zanzibar, yeah. Like, well, they're gone now, guys. And then if you guys are gonna protest, I'd be like, try and stop me.
What are you gonna do about it?
And so I should have done that, to be honest. Scotland probably would have gotten mad at me though and declared war, but
deal with
they didn't seem to do anything.
Yeah. They would have had to come so far. They were so far away from everybody.
All Scotland did, and it's just what the computer's been doing lately, is it just screwed us for the eras. They just raced through the eras, and that was really bad for you guys. Because I think you each suffered a couple dark ages.
Just one.
Okay, just one.
Good.
Maybe at the end I would have got one too.
One at the very beginning, and that's what snowballs the worst, right? Because I was trying to expand at that time, and the reason why I never went into a dark age after that was I get like all these special units, I get all these special buildings that I get all this era score for in the medieval era. So I just was so like at that point I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I took over City State. That gave me era score as well. When you convert like cities and stuff as well,
right?
Some era score. So as soon as I was getting my religion up and running, that I never went into another dark age again. But it was just at the very beginning. I was just like, well, that sucks. Now I got to deal with this crap. And so
also go ahead.
I was gonna say if we were about to take our break, what would you guys do differently? If you played that again, what would you do different?
Apidena. I should have prioritized Apidena. I forgot about it. Part of my strategy was to go diplomatic and try to go for a really quick diplomatic victory. I couldn't. I forgot about Apidena because I'm like, oh, George's ability. If a city state is converted to my religion, I get 2 envoys. So I'm like, okay, owls and that's my plan, and then go for that.
Nice.
And then even when you were threatening, like, oh, I have a thing that it can really go envoys, I'm like, whatever, right? Because I can get 2 every trade route. It's just like Rough Rider Teddy. It reminded me of Rough Rider Teddy. So I'm like, this is great. You built Apidena. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That was a priority. I was like, I'm owls. I want Apidea.
I built 2 wonders and I forgot about that. And I'm like, and I felt so stupid. I'm like, oh my God. I chopped down trees. Like I had pyramids and I had I forgot what the other one was, but like I had that was my biggest mistake. Anyway, there you go.
Not ready for getting Apidea.
And I already went on my tirade about what I should have done already. So
that would have helped your era score too if you went to war, because your units would have been past level 1, and so every level you get was 1 era score, right? So if you started taking over city states, that would have helped your era score too. You definitely should have done that.
Yeah.
Would you have done anything differently?
Would play the Byzantine Empire again though. Very fun civ to play.
Yeah. Would you have done anything differently though?
I hate to like you know. But I got the wonders I needed. Like there was wonders I was specifically.
This is gonna be like after he played China, right? He's like, I made a list of wonders. I
didn't make a list.
I had a list of wonders. I had a list of wonders and I couldn't do it.
I didn't make a list this time, but that time I did. So it's very similar to that, though. The Apodea was critical because it's like, okay, I'm going to go Owls, so I want the wild cards, and I want all the envoys. So Apodea was critical. I was like, I want Statue of Zeus. You guys, you both have calories, your special unit, and I just want all of the units. So I wanted special, the Zeus. And then the other big one was the Taj Mahal. Because I was like, man, Eriscore is so important.
Yeah.
So I think if I read the Taj Mahal right, it was anytime you earn an era score, you get a +1.
Every time you earn an era score of +1, it becomes a +1 additional.
So an additional. So that means that every science I get 2 instead of 1, right? And every civic I get 2 instead of 1. So that was like a high priority. It's like, all right, as soon as I can, I'm building the Taj Mahal. So I made that a point. Mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting Moy.
What did I do? I'm sorry. Oh, I declared war on you. Well, what do you want me to do?
No, the only mistake I made that game was with my warrior, where I got trapped there.
I told you not to.
No, that wasn't even a mistake. Like I was like, I knew what you were doing. I was like, no, I don't care. This will be a point of angst that we'll have. It took me forever to cross.
I thought for sure you guys were gonna go to war.
I had to.
I was ready.
I had to stand my ground.
I was ready.
I couldn't let you bully me like that. There's no way I can warn you to do it. You do it anyway, and then I just let you out for free. That is. I cannot stand for that. That is bullying. I can't let that happen.
I was close to it because I was upset that you would not do that. And I was only going to declare war to move through your territory. Like that would be it. Because
I would have laughed.
I was looking, and he just had this insane mountain range. I'm like, it's not going to be worth it. Like by the time I get there, he's got all of his defenses ready. And what is this? Like even just looking at your territory is like, I'm not that impressed. Sorry, like you're little. There's like you're nowhere to farm.
I was trapped in there. It was sucked, right?
I think that city when we ended the game was at like 6 or 7.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was terrible.
So it was.
I should have built a harbor in that city. I didn't build a harbor. That was the downfall there. Let's take a small break, and then when we come back, we're going to answer some community questions that were submitted on our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, you should definitely join and submit questions if you have any for the Civ Show. And we're also going to be talking about next Sunday, our Community Day. And we're going to be picking our civilizations for that. So don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the TheCivShow podcast, where we suck, us three, so you don't have to.
Or them.
Yeah, we suck, so you don't have to. That's the motto here. Look, see, his internet sucks, so yours doesn't have to.
His Discord sucks a lot.
His Discord
all the time.
is terrible. His Discord's awful. Welcome back. There you go. Right on. So we have some questions from the community, some really, really good questions, and some of them were sparked by the conversation that was in our Discord. So again, if you haven't joined our Discord,
heated conversation in the Discord today.
There was, and I think we're going to touch on that one first. So the question comes from kind of a combination of people. I'm going to shout out Vector Cat, Sharkster, and OnSpot TV for this. Is the granary worth it to build? So the discussion after that was OnSpot saying, no, it's not worth it to build. If you're building a granary, you're doing something wrong.
And yeah, so honestly, I think like the hardest thing about Civilization 6, and this is hard for like a lot of new players too, I think, and even experienced players, is that the game is so complex that there's not really a simple yes or no question to these questions sometimes, right? Like, never build a granary. Well, it's not always possible for some civs to like build your cities near fresh water, right?
Right.
Like Maya being a prime example of that. You can't always, get the prime location for your cities. And so there are certain things where you need the housing, and early on in the game, you just don't have any other avenue to get it, right? Other than build a granary. And so I would argue it's not super easy to say, like, if you're building it, you're doing something wrong. Like, well, it kind of depends, does it not? Like, I think without fresh water, you only have like 2 or 3 housing in a city.
You have 2,
depending.
I think. Yeah.
3. I think 3 is the base for all cities. 3 is the base.
Right.
No, because you have +1 for coastal water. So I think 2 is the base if you settle on like middle of the land, and then you get 3 if you settle on a coast. And then you get 5 if you settle near freshwater.
The freshwater, yeah.
Okay.
And so,
that's right, yeah.
like people, like even if you spend a little bit of time, like say you spend like 5 turns with inadequate housing, that changes how fast your population center can grow, and that can mean a lot in the early game, right? Like I know the argument in the Discord started talking about like you only need to get up to like 10 or 12 population for a city because then you need amenities. But in the early game, like, you're not building a granary to make the difference between a population of 12 or 15. You're building a granary to make the difference between a population of 3 and 5, right? And early on in the game, building up that production, you can improve your city of 2 population all you want, but there's only 2 citizens to work the tiles.
So let me think of it this way, though. If you settled near freshwater, do you need a granary? Yes or no? I think no.
No, you don't.
No. If you don't settle near freshwater, but you can build an aqueduct, do you build a granary? Would you prioritize a granary over an aqueduct?
I think I do think it ultimately depends on how large of a city you're looking to build, right? But like my thing, yeah, I don't think granary is that great. +2 housing and +1 food, not that great. You have limited resources, you have limited time.
Limited money, limited
time, money.
Yeah.
City gets to a certain size, you're gonna have amenity problems, especially if you're playing on something like the dramatic eras, where it's the cities with the lowest loyalty that do the flipping. So you don't want a big population of rowdy individuals. So in that regard, you just got to know how big of a city you're looking to build. If you want a population 5 and there's nothing else, like if you're not by hills and you're not by mountains, not by river, maybe. Or if you are playing maybe where you have a fewer cities, but they're all very large, and you're just focusing on
like building tall instead of building wide, right?
Building
like
tall,
Maya,
yeah,
maybe is a good example for that.
If you Maya, or if you built the Temple of Artemis, okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
That gives you crazy great amenities. All right. So if you're able to support the population, yeah, go for it, right? If you're able to take those 2, but that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't need it. It's not super critical. You could put your production. I would most of the time say put your production into a project instead of into a granary.
Now, there are members of the Civilization 6 community who have made some great YouTube videos on this kind of topic. So one big creator is Potato Whiskey.
Potato McWhiskey, the granary versus the monument, right? That was such a good video. Oh, you have to watch it. It's so good. It's so informative, so well done. Did you watch it, Miss Agnes?
Yeah, I did. That's so why I haven't seen it yet.
I would.
It's not so simple, right? And he actually did like simulate, and he even said, in this game where you're talking about like snowball effects, right? Once you get past a certain point, there are so many possible outcomes that you just reach infinity. Right, you can never see like every single step ahead of it, right?
Right.
And so he did like set limits on it. He talked about which one was better, for overall when it comes to like how much the city, because population also affects how much science the city makes, how much culture the city makes, how much production the city has, and so growing population could be important, whereas the monument gives you that +1 culture, right? And he did go into like how much production you're spending, and it's a pretty well made video, like. Honestly, it's pretty in depth.
This guy made Excel sheets, man, of like.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, you gotta watch it.
I'm going to.
Do you want me to spoil it for you? Like,
no, I want to watch it. Okay. I want to watch it. I'll watch it. We should do what do you call those reaction videos where we watch other people's videos and no. Well, how dare he?
Yeah, not for that kind of video. Not for that. But like a different kind of video, yeah. Because then it's easy content, baby.
yeah, exactly.
But okay, so back to the question at hand. I think I've always built granaries, right? I've always, because like in my opinion, even the +1 food sometimes is enough for me, because I can see that the time it takes for me to grow population decreases by like 2 or 3 turns, and if I buy it with money, which I usually do, it's worth it in my opinion. But now that I'm thinking about it with the discussion that kind of happened in a Discord, I'm more now to the side of on spot and not building it at all. Because now that I'm thinking about it, if you can build an aqueduct, right, that gives you food, or it gives you food or you don't lose food from droughts. It gives you your housing that you ask for, and it gives you adjacency bonuses to industrial zones. So like that's immediately way better than a granary, at least in terms of housing. And then really the only difference between the two is
the aqueduct does take up a district spot, right?
Whereas not a specialty district spot though. Not a specialty district spot, right? It takes up a tile and it destroys a tile. It takes up a tile.
That's what I meant. Yeah, it destroys a tile.
If you kind of plan it out well, like if you know that like, okay, I am not near fresh water, but I'm near a mountain, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to build this one tile away from a mountain and build an aqueduct. Right?
I think the granary is in the game because some people, when they get start locations, aren't near a lot of the fresh water and stuff, and you need an ability to catch up to people who were lucky enough to spawn near like a lot of fresh water and build a lot of cities near fresh water.
Yeah.
And because if you don't have that, then you're screwed, because you can't. There's nothing that gives you housing until you get to the aqueduct, right? Which is it's not like a short period of time, right? We're talking about the first 20, 30 turns, right? So. And again, this game is all about the quicker you get out to the lead earlier in the game, the more your lead solidifies as the game continues, right? So if you're already starting, like it's almost like saying everyone who's spawned near fresh water starts at this finish line, and then someone who doesn't has to spawn like, they're 25 yards behind them. Well, the granary is like a quick way of like catching up, or at least leveling the playing field, so they have enough food and housing to allow their cities to grow at least at a comparable rate to the people who like fresh water.
Like things that get landlocked, like Congo, I think gets like they want more land. They don't want like coastal water. Like civs that get landlocked, right? It's probably for them, but it also might just be for like newer players. So it's just like an easy way to grow your city. Like it's an easier solution than trying to figure out all this other math. It's just like, okay, why don't we just build this one building, right?
Or even civs like Brazil, where you don't want to be chopping down stuff, and if you need because you have already such limited space and you want to keep all your stuff intact. The Maya the Maori. If you can't chop stuff down, you might want that over that taking up that spot. Aqueduct does have that big restriction of has to be within two tiles of a mountain or fresh water, and it eats up a square. and it has to be built beside your city.
Beside your city center, and then adjacent
right.
to a mountain or a source of fresh water.
Yeah, and adjacent. Yeah, so that's a bunch of restrictions. So if you're a Civ that wants those resources, you're losing them, or it's eating up a district spot that otherwise could go elsewhere. So I don't know. Yeah,
but that's part of city planning, right?
One or the other. Yeah, absolutely. So,
like I said, though, it's not as easy as saying like. I think the hardest thing that you have to do in Civilization 6 is stay away from essentialist terms. Like essentialist things saying never and always should not really be in your vocabulary. Fair. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, as a general rule, but there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, like that's why I don't like tiers, is because I think there's so many things that are just situational that sometimes you've got the exact right tool for the job. Now, personally, though, if I really think about it, I think I always end up building granary just because I'm a perfectionist with cities, and I'm just like, all right, if I
you want to build all the buildings, I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
Or if I love gold. So every now and then I'll go on, like, I'll just buy one building in a city and be like, well, why not? And then ding, 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 and I'll just
spend all my money. I got nothing else.
There you go. I'm gonna get it. That's probably not smart.
No.
But I don't always play smart. I sometimes play for fun.
I am the exact same way. It's like I can buy a military unit to like be safe and maybe start building a military, or I can complete my buildings.
From a historical standpoint. Right. What we can say is that maybe the developers can make the granary more important from a historical standpoint. What city back in the ancient era didn't have a granary? That's the whole point, right? Like you have to store food, and so maybe they can make it a little bit more buffed a little bit, so it's a little bit more worth it.
I don't think it needs to be buffed because it's available in the ancient.
You know what I think would be cool is if they took a page out of the old granary. So once upon a time, Civ 1, Civ 2, I think even Civ 3, what the granary did is every time your city would gain would get a population, all your food would be depleted. So you had to grow your
Civ
food.
5 was like
so
that
you go
too.
to 20 and then so the granary allowed you to retain half of your food each time. So the first round would be, okay, you need 10 food. So so you'd get your 10 food, and then you get to keep 5 of it, and now you need 20 food, but you got like 5 of it or half of it's already there. And
copyright that, man, because I feel like that might be in Civ 7 or something.
Well,
if they bring it back,
I think that something that they could do is they could have that either, maybe when a city grows in population, maybe a small percentage of the food is retained and carried over, would work. Or maybe even, I don't know, do something crazy, attach granaries to eras, that when your era shifts, you get a little influx of food, because big celebration. I don't know. But just maybe remember its roots. It used to let you keep a bit of food as opposed to give you food. Maybe something like that would be cool.
Let's move on to the next question.
Absolutely.
And this is a special request to read this in a specific way. So let me... I don't know how to do this anymore. I nailed it the first time and I don't know how to do it again. Since the New Frontier season started, we've seen an exponential power creep in recently added civs. Do you believe this trend will continue, or will new additions be more in line with existing civs? And do you think existing lower tier civs will get balanced at some point?
That was a good vector cat.
Was it?
A good vector.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. He has a deep voice. I can't imitate it.
You've done a vector cat before where I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Right, the first time, and I couldn't do it again. Anyway. Yeah, do you think these new civs are too good? And do you think they're going to buff the old
Who are
civs?
you asking?
General question. So let's,
I'm gonna...
There you go, Nystagmus then.
Yeah. I think the name of the game, and I kind of called it with dramatic ages, is the two main things you're going to keep on doing is going to be more chaos and OP. OP is the name of the game, right? The reason why I don't think they're going to have exponential power creep is, one, when you introduce a new civ, you want people to try them
and buy it.
If you and well, I'm just saying, like, you want people to want to play the civ, right?
Yes.
And so you don't do it by being like, hey, it's just like everybody else. No, they get them all these like crazy little powers. And so it's the name of the game is increase chaos and continue the OP-ness of everything.
Think of
if
it
everyone
this way.
is OP, no one is OP.
Think of it this way. If the first civ they introduced in this pack, in New Frontier Pass, was Spain, would you have bought this pass?
Like Spain as is?
Yeah, as is. No, I would not. I'd be like, this is stupid. Why would I ever do that? So, like, part of the power, they need to keep it interesting. They need to keep it, not OP, but at least, like, it sounds like, in theory, really good if you do all these things right. Like, in theory, this is good. Spain, in theory, is bad no matter what, right? And then they completely overrid them with Byzantine. Like, there's no reason to play Spain when there's Byzantine.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think, like, the name of the game is every new thing they're going to add is going to add either more chaos in some way, either by something that's random. So apocalypse mode is like random chaos, so chaotic chaos, right? Whereas dramatic ages are like, you better do these things or you're gonna have a bad time. Kind of chaos that adds into it. So they are changing the trajectory of what people do, right? Some people actually like purposely got dark ages.
Yeah.
Before dramatic ages, right? Now there's under no circumstances would you purposely get a dark age in dramatic ages, right? So they're trying to change how people play, right? And so I think the name of the game is whatever they add is going to add a layer of chaos to it, and every civ they're going to add from here on out is going to have some sort of interesting, something that's interesting enough that people want to play them. And so I don't think they're going to bring them. I guess I don't know what they mean by like in line. What Victor Cat means by in line with the other civs, but.
I think
he's not so OP, I guess. But
yeah, I think he's suggesting that all the new. Okay, so I play games like Magic and Magic the Gathering, sort of similar idea that every new set that comes out adds to the previous one, and there has been a general power creep. All right, where you look at the old cards, you're like, wow, these are really garbage. And what I would usually say in the end, like at first I agree with that. I'm like, well, no, you know what? There's some great old cards, and I think it's just. Some of the old cards, they just didn't know what they were doing. They just didn't. They didn't know what. Not that they didn't know what they were doing, but they didn't know how certain mechanics would end up actually playing out against one another. Where maybe on paper or through models, Spain seems good, but they're nowhere near as good as Germany. And that was not immediately known. So these earlier civs. So some of them are maybe better than others. Now that said. Okay, I do think, though, that most new civs, the one big thing they have going for them is because their powers are new, we don't know how they're going to respond to the complexity of the rest of the civilizations, right? Every new one you throw, there's new possibilities, and that is an edge, okay? Because you don't know them as an enemy. You don't know how things are going to respond. You don't know how even the developers, they're not going to know as well. Like, this is something that's true of Magic as well. Magic gets play tested to all crap by the company. But they don't really know how broken something is until the community gets their hands on it. Right.
And there are people out there looking for exploits,
of course,
right? Like,
of course. It's
looking at you, spiffing Brit.
It's an exponential growth of complexity, right? Where you're able to try all these combinations out, and humans are like little computers, and we're going to come up with all of these things that they would not have thought of. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that with the newer civs, what we're seeing is maybe it seems like they're more powerful. I think they're just making them better. Right. So they're making their abilities to maybe flow a little bit together better. And they don't always do that right. Case in point, like Poland, okay, I think is a very poorly put together civ. But then sometimes you do it really right, where if you look at it in aggregate, Gaul's powers aren't that amazing. Okay. It's a bit of production and it's a bit of culture. But together, because those two things are very important in the game, they end up being really, really good. So I think all new civs are going to have that chaos because nobody knows what they're dealing with. I think, though, that every civ we see, like they're unique and special, and their abilities can't be really like Canada is an older civ now. Yeah. Okay. There's nobody like Canada, though. There's no civilization that you can't instantly declare war on. That's always going to be useful. All right, at least in even in our games, like against a computer, I found it in Canada that the computer never declares war on you when you're Canada. Okay, or very, very rarely.
Very rarely.
Even against humans, it's tedious and annoying, and even you guys would be like, "Oh, we're going to make sure you're always denounced." You forget
because we're bad, but like real people, like they're going to denounce you right away and keep it denounced the whole time.
Yeah. So I think when you look at all the civs, like it is still circumstance. Like even now, Canada, when you look at some of the new stuff that's available, like work ethic, can become crazy great.
Right. Yeah.
So even the new rules are going to affect. France all of a sudden under Eleanor with the Void Singers. What's going on? Or now Eleanor with the Void Singers and dramatic ages.
Yes.
Okay, what's going on? So now these civilizations, because of the game modes, these older civs in those game modes become super OP and fantastic, right? It's all situational. I haven't tried Georgia yet. I'm not convinced yet that this era has totally corrected them. So I do think that and I think that's kind of in there, his question kind of in there, will they balance some of the old civs?
Yeah.
It does.
So like
it does
Spain
look
and stuff like that. The ones that got replaced, basically.
Rough Rider Teddy when it comes to
Rough Rider. So these leader types is a good way to do it. The different clothing, I guess. The Rough Rider Teddy has
new persona.
Yeah, the personas. Okay, so that's one way to do it. I just think we'll see Civ 7 before we see like Spain get redone.
I don't think there's going to be like a major update. Even all their current updates don't update civs. They update mechanics of the game. And so they're not going to, unless they like update the mechanic of religion or update the mechanic of like inquisitors or something. They're not going to get above.
The game is so complex. Is like the balancing and I always bring it back to this old game. Just that's the game I always know about balance, because balance became this huge thing. It was just StarCraft, right? Balance becomes like this stupid like circular thing you keep on doing, right? And the problem with StarCraft is they also don't sometimes they'll like, oh, the unit individually isn't OP, but then they forget that people sometimes just mass them. Right. So like you mass banshees, and then it just that just destroys everything. Back in the day when StarCraft 2 first came out, mass banshees was like impossible to beat because they can cloak, and so they had to balance that. And so it just becomes this endless cycle of balancing because everyone just looks for exploits, right? Like they're just like trying to poke and find exploits. And so in a game like Civ 6, I wonder, you're just going to go around in a circle, right? Because every balance you do will make exploits for someone else when you do it. So I think just they're going to keep it as is, because the game is kind of just, it's never meant to be balanced, right? Like I think people just got to forget it's probably not going to be balanced.
It's never going to be perfectly balanced.
No
game is ever going to be perfectly balanced.
They have patch notes if something's critical, but I think they just also accepted there's just some civs that
they're going to be good.
Yeah, there's some that are going to be great. Like I believe Germany is one of the first civs, was it not?
It was. Yeah, so was Russia.
All right.
So was Russia.
And Russia, and I think Japan was one of the first civs.
Yeah, they're all vanilla civs. Yes,
they're all some of the most powerful civs in the game, right? So yeah, we're getting these other civs, but like a civ needs to at least be decent, right? You have like I'd say like of the newer civs, what would you guys say would be the maybe not so, like Scotland's not super strong. Canada's
of the newer ones, or like
of the newer ones. Yeah,
so like Rise and Fall even falls on that.
Let's go after Gathering Storm.
So New Frontier Pass. That's it.
New Frontier Pass didn't Gathering Storm. That was Canada.
The second one. No, Rise and Fall was Canada. That was the first DLC.
Sure. Even just looking at them so far, like Maya, they're okay. I wouldn't say that they're
okay. Yeah, they're not like amazing. They're okay.
They're not,
And I would argue that the claims of Byzantine being like the super OP have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, for sure.
They're complicated, right? They're not just a matter of like Grand Columbia of easy everything +1. That's easy. They have to play a specific way, but if they do, you're going to explode suddenly. And people are not going to be prepared for the massive amount of knights that is swarming over them, right? If you set that up right. But I think it's easy to set up if you know how to do it. So but yeah, they're not the new.
What was your question again? Which one of the old civ or new civs are not good or just okay?
Who asked that?
You did.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Wow.
Of the newer civs I said originally, but yeah, like.
I don't even remember what these are anymore right now at the current moment. I don't know how to answer that. I'll be honest with you. I think Maya is just okay. Like I'll answer Maya's just okay.
Maya's just like even the ones that came out just beforehand with the
you all went super duper off topic.
Yeah, I know, eh? Anyways, I feel that question's answered.
Why don't we go to the last question then? Sure. This was Sharkster's question. Are internal or external trade routes better? Good question. Let's let Zoe answer this one because I know he hated internal trade routes at one point.
I'll open. I think that you have to pivot, and there is a way to use both, because you have to remember that when you build your trade routes, they get longer and longer, right? So you end up when you're building a trade route, what you're actually doing is it takes like X amount of turns, depending on the speed of the game and the distance of the city you're going to establish an actual trade route, right? Yeah. Or not a trading post. And every time you do that, you're going to get longer trading posts and longer range, for your trades. And I believe every city that they pass through, you're getting a little bit more gold, right?
If there's already a trading post, you get plus one gold.
There's already a trading post they right?
Go through, yeah.
So domestically, that's not as great. It's the trading posts are going to be very limited. So if you can't get that gold early and build those posts, like I'll often do that just for the posts. Mm-hmm. That said, like posts are great, and you do want to get further and further away, especially with city states and Owls of Minerva and stuff like that. Assuming that that's not on. If you're building wonders, if you're serious about building wonders, you want domestic trade routes. Mm-hmm. You want it to originate in your city. All right. You want to have that the city that it's going to, if it can, has an industrial zone in it. Okay. So that's another advantage, by the way, of the Gaul. I open the internet in every city. Yeah. But I believe that if you trade with me too, you're getting a production bonus, right? Because you get the
If you, right? Like, depends on the districts that are in the city. Yeah.
So I ended up having like +4, +5 production from my domestic trade routes, and it was just building those wonders. When they come to an end in 16 turns, whatever, sure, go and get gold. So I think you got to have a healthy mix, but it is important, I think, at first to get as long distance as you can. Get the immediate so that you can get a little bit further away, because sometimes those far away ones go up to like 30 gold, right?
Yeah. So
I think there's a mix. I think you got to do a mix.
You can go to Sangus, because I think I have a longer answer. I have a pretty long anser.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I my general answer for this is I usually take advantage. First of all, I love trade routes. Like I try to I feel like if you're in the medieval and Renaissance era and you don't have like 8 trade routes, that's like bad, right? So I love commercial districts. I love harbors and everything. I always those are like my priorities usually.
Harbors are the best.
And so I usually will use an exploit where it's not an exploit, but like when I found a new city, I make sure I have a free trade route. I always make sure I use a domestic trade route when the city is first founded, so it can get its first few districts built. And then I will slowly switch over the trade routes over to international. What's my general core? I like to get to like 8 cities, usually 8 to 10 cities is my core empire. And then at that point, I start really moving the trade routes to international at that point. And so I do kind of early game, I'm having more internal trade routes because gold isn't as important, because what you need gold for later on is to upgrade all your units, right? That's the big thing. As you're moving through eras, you need gold to upgrade the units.
Yeah.
And so early on, you need more the growth, and then as each era progresses, I have more trade routes, I guess, slotted for the international routes and less in the internal. And so each era, I actually switch them over. So usually, like by the time in the Renaissance era or medieval era, it's like 50-50, and then as the game goes on after that, it's going to be much less than that. Usually by the modern era, I rarely have any domestic trade routes. It's usually always all external.
I am the complete opposite of you, like textbook opposite. I start the game with international trade routes, and then I'll turn them into domestic trade routes later on. Reason being, the only way to get gold out of your trade routes immediately is to send them away. So you send them away, you only get like 5 gold or whatever, but 5 gold at the beginning of the game is kind of a lot, right? So then you start to unlock these policy cards that give you gold for every trade route. So then you don't really need to go outside of your place, and you can send them inside your own cities, still get your gold, still get your production, still get your food. also there's more to trade routes than just kind of like gold and production and food and stuff like that. So there's the whole roads thing. So if you're planning to attack a city, maybe you want to build a road over there first and then have them sent back, and then you attack the city.
The reason why I prioritize them internally is that I'm making my internal road network so my armies can move fast throughout my empire.
I understand your strategy, and maybe I'll implement it for my next game to try it, because I've never the way my brain works is like, oh, I want gold, and then I get policy cards, then I'll go domestic when I get.
And I would argue that even with those policy cards for the domestic trade routes giving you gold, the gap between how much gold you get for an external trade route versus an internal is still huge.
No, you're right.
It is a pretty big sum.
It is, but I usually get enough gold for me to survive, essentially. So like that's kind of my style of play. Right, so if I'm getting like 100 gold a turn, I think that's enough. I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I can stockpile, build, or buy whatever I need to, like really need to. Otherwise, I'll just like kind of do production in the domestic trade routes to get to what I need to get more consistently. That's my mindset. Maybe I'll do something different next time. But there's also the whole tourism aspect to trade routes.
Right. True.
I learned this last week. I think I read a post on Civ Fanatics that was like posted like years ago, but I just read it. It was exactly how a culture victory works. So nothing is dependent on your culture per turn. Nystagmus. Okay? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is depending on your culture per turn.
I
think it was me that made that.
Okay, it was you? Okay, my bad. I'm going to take that back from you. I apologize. I'm going to go to Zoe.
The venom's already in his arm, my friend.
My bad. So the way tourism works, if you establish a trade route with a civilization, right, it's like plus 25% or plus 50%, I can't remember the exact number, tourism to that civilization. So if you want to go for exactly a culture victory or tourism victory, as it should be called, you want to establish a trade route in every civilization to increase the tourism to your land. There's also the whole thing of like policy cards and stuff like that. So there's this now I'm going to go into the tourism thing. So like whatever. Overall, I think international are better, but then you should transition to domestic if you want to go into a military route, because you're not going to have any international trade anyway. Or
I don't think our argument was really which one is better. I think it was just the timing of which one you use, right?
No, are internal or external trade routes better? That was the question.
I know, and like I said, I stay away from absolutist terms, which is I usually tend to focus on internal trade routes early game, and I switch them to external trade routes as the game goes on to get those trade routes.
Do either of you ever take advantage of Magnus?
Sometimes, not like super often. The only reason I care about Magnus is the first ability, which is the plus like yields to chopping trees and stuff, and the no population when you build a settler. That's the only thing I care about Magnus. Everything else, I literally don't give a heck. I can just like 2 governor points. Great. Now I'm going to invest somewhere else. That's it. Do you upgrade them further?
I used to. I haven't recently. I was just confirming it was a percentage. Yeah, it's plus 20% growth in the city. Your trade routes ending here provide plus 2 food to their starting city.
Yeah.
So I did used to do it because I found that I could, using my domestic trade routes, the food was like, oh wow, that's like plus 5 food.
It is good when you use it. I agree.
Then you'll grow quickly, and then what I do is I do a trader and then I'd move it, and it would just be one at a time, and then I move it around.
I do that promotion all the time. What I do is I like to build my capital, like all roads lead to Rome, right? And then all my trade routes go to the capital. That way, the army can move quickly to my capital if it's needed.
Yeah,
so it builds my road network, and I get like all this extra food simply by creating trade routes within the capital.
Yeah, maybe I'm just wrong. I don't know. Because I find the cities will grow
right
anyway,
or wrong,
and like I'll always max out on housing anyway. So there's no reason for me to prioritize food for trade routes when it's going to max out my housing anyway.
But again, if you can do it earlier, I understand that. If you're systematic, it's not just restarting the trade route. If you're like, okay, now I'm going to move it to this next one, and I'm going to beef up my population, or I need this one city to build these wonders.
Yeah, the wonder I
get trade route going.
A lot of times I've abused internal trade routes when I was trying to put up flood barriers. right?
I think, I think what
yeah.
Nystagmus though, he got, planning them. It is important. It's that's what he's saying, that he plans them out, and you'll change the flux of how you're doing it. And it's not just that you're doing the entire game with only international. If you're smart about it, you end up building a road network that makes moving your troops around a hell of a lot easier. You end up being able to move through terrain faster as well. You end up being able to trade longer later on, right? Or in those crunch times, if you plan it right, it's like, I need to build this wonder. I'm going to have all 3 of these trade routes out of the city going into other cities to get that plus 5.
I do adjust too, right? So like, just say I'm near a couple of like merchant city states when the game starts, and my cities just happen to start in a pretty, lots of fresh water, lots of arable land. Then I may not see internal trade routes as necessary at that point, and I may start just trading with the city states so I can get the extra gold. But it is adjusting based on what I need the cities to do at that point, right? So if I'm like, oh, the cities have enough production and it's not going to take me like 20 turns to build like a monument, then I will go for the international trade route. But if it's taking me turns like that long to build something, I don't want to wait.
Yeah,
like I need the extra production right away. I need that internal trade route to do that. And that's why I tend to focus early game, because early game your cities start with, like, depending where you found it, like 3, 5 production, maybe if you're lucky, in a good starting position. And it just simply, when you first found them, like in the medieval and Renaissance era, it just takes forever to build anything. And so I use the internal trade routes to kind of do that early on, which is why I really like the isolationism policy card.
Yeah, that's a nice new one, eh?
That one's good. That one's there anyway for Dark Ages. Actually, you just never go into Dark Ages though. You just don't know.
Some of those Dark Ages ones are pretty sweet. That plus 50% production in your capital, but you don't get governors. If you just lost most your cities because they're all on the fringes, like, there you go. That you'll be able to take back your empire.
So
I think it's pretty fun.
So that is unfortunately all the time we have for today. We are going to wrap up. Actually, there's one question in the chat I would like to answer. Do trade routes that follow existing trade routes build faster? So trade routes are based off of movement speed, even on a regular unit. So if there are roads, yes, it'll go faster, because they will travel faster along a road. So if you haven't already followed us on social media, you definitely should. We're very active on our Twitter. We post a lot of memes. We post a lot of funny pictures of us imitating leaders. So you should definitely follow us on Twitter at TheCivShow or twitter.com/TheCivShow.
And for the more intimate connection, join us on our Discord. The Discord for the Civ Show is a pretty awesome daily conversation. Sometimes it's about sausages. Sometimes it's about granaries. It's also where we go when we do have community games, which we have coming up this Sunday. That's where we determine the participants of those games. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the Discord. So join the Discord right now if you can.
Yeah, and don't worry, Moya was going to mention the community game.
I never forgot. It was there the whole time.
Also, if you want to check out some of our other content, so we all now, 3 of us now finally, raising Zozo,
I got
now
one.
Also makes content on our YouTube channel. I create a series called Better Know a Leader in the Civ 6 Real History series, which is something where I talk about the more history aspect of things. I've done Sir Wilfrid Laurier of Canada, Coupe of the Maori, Robert the Bruce of Scotland, and the most recent one is Basil II of the Byzantine Empire. So check that out definitely as well.
Community Day. Yes, Community Day. So we have...
Community Day. Oh, I thought we were wrapping up.
We're picking three random people out of the 3 people who signed up. It's going to be really tough to choose those ones. But we're choosing civilizations that are specifically good in hills, and we're going to be playing a Highlands map. So if you signed up for Community Day, you probably know who you are. You made it. Congratulations, which is Michael or OnSpot TV. It's going to be the Vector Cat, and it's going to be Sean Ian Jones. Those are the 3 that we will be playing with. So be there on Sunday, please, at 6:30 Eastern, and we will get set up for a 7 p.m. start time. So who are you picking, Zoe? By the way,
sorry,
who's available and who are you picking?
So we're doing Highland games. So we're trying to have ahead of time that we know what map. So we'll know also for the week after what map we're doing. So the Highland games is the nature of the game, and whoever won the last game gets to choose their civ. That's the way it works here on the Civ Show. So we have a short list of civs that basically have to do with hills. Not every civ made it, so if you didn't hear a certain civ, it's just because we decided not to choose that one, and not that we didn't realize it didn't have. So more or less, if any unit or district has the word hill in it, if the leader ability has the word hill in it, we considered you a hill civ.
Yes.
So our short list of the 43 civs or whatever that are available right now, we have Gaul, we have Scotland, with their Highlanders. We got the Inca, all full of hills there. Ethiopia, well known for their hilliness. We've got Korea, they learn on their hills. We've got Canada, they've got like 5 abilities with the word hill in it. We've got Georgia, they got units that fight good on hills.
They fight real good. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got the Greeks, who, Greece is pretty hilly, but also their one special district can only be built on hills. So those are the ones that we chose. If we missed one, we don't like to read. So I like when I win a game and then I'm entering into a game and I like the civ that I won with, I like to be a little bit of the king of the hill. So since this is the Highland Games, I am going to be the king of the hill and stand my ground as the Gauls. The only difference for this is that I'm just going to play as king of the hill. It's a free-for-all game, so I'm just going to be the Gauls again. I know I'm going to have a big target on my back, but either way, it is a free-for-all, so none of us is on each other's teams. So we will let the game play out. So that's who I have selected. I believe Nystagmus,
you were second place.
Yeah. Second place.
Yeah. So as second place, I am going to go with our home country. I chose Canada. So I'm going to go ahead with that. Also, to answer Groovy Feed's question in the chat there between Tagma and the Cataphract. The Cataphract is just a heavily armored knight. From one of my research, a Tagma is kind of more generic term for a Greek military unit, like a battalion kind of. So it's not like specific to the actual knight itself. It's kind of like kind of like in the most basic terms, it could be like a general military unit. In fact, I mentioned in the video, the Basil the second video, that there was actually a special unit I thought they would use, which is the Varangian Guard that Basil actually created, but they didn't use it in the game. And so that's why I thought the Varangian Guard was going to be their unique unit. So that was kind of interesting, I thought, too.
So let me pick my civ before we get into who the community. No, not you. Before we get into who the community chooses. So I will be picking Ethiopia as my...
That's a surprise because you were all like, I'm done with religion. That's it. I'm not doing the religion anymore. And I was like, okay, great.
I know.
And
I keep getting sucked
you
back
choose Ethiopia. I'm like, the Mayas are there, boy. You love Maya.
The Inca, you mean?
The Incas.
I do love Inca. Love Inca, but I'm gonna. I never played Ethiopia yet, and I want to try them, so I'm gonna pick Ethiopia.
Oh my god! So that's good. So here's what we did for the community. Okay, I got here some. These are Italian playing cards. What do we call these? I can't remember the Italian name for it. No, they do actually. Tarot cards are based on Italian playing cards. So what I have here is I got Vector Cat is going to be number 1. Okay, there's the 1 there, the 1 of coins there. I got Mike is going to be number 2.
Mike's not here, so he gets whoever's left over.
Oh, they can choose later. I was just going to do the order. Okay, and then number 3 is Sean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a shuffle. Okay, and when we're ready, okay, I'm going to put him down here. Okay. And I'm going to ask each of my co-hosts here, okay? I'm going to give them a little shuffle. Okay, we're going to do some special effects here.
So Groovy Feet is going to act as Michael. He's a mod in his chat, so he's representing Michael.
Okay, so here we got...
Oh, where are you taking me? Oh,
all right, here we go. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3. Moy, I want you to choose one of these cards. This is going to be who gets to choose first of these 3 guys. Choose 1, 2, or 3. This is for my purpose to flip it over. Okay.
3. I'm gonna choose 3.
3. Okay, so that's 3. That's card right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember, Vector Cat, you're the 1. Mike, you're the 2. Sean, you're the 3. So here we go. We're gonna flip number 3. That is the 2. Of course, that's Mike. Of course, that is. Okay, so we have a representative, right, for Mike in the audience right now. So you get to choose between. What do we say? So Gaul's gun. So Scotland, Inca, Korea, Georgia, or Greece.
I like your little notes there.
Okay. School notes there.
So while he's making a choice, let's draw the second card, so we don't have to.
All right.
He picks Greece.
Stagnus.
He picks Greece.
Choose a card. All right, Greece it is.
1.
All right, number 1. Here we go. This is for second pick. Second pick. That's Vector Cat. Well done, Vector Cat. Number 1, you get to choose. So you get between Scotland, Inca, Korea, or Georgia,
or other Greece, technically.
I guess you could choose other Greece. No, I don't think you can. Like, we'd have to change the mode.
That's
boring.
Fine. Take a guess. I'm guessing he's gonna go Georgia.
I think. Are you gonna go? Are you gonna show us how it's done?
Oh no! Don't show me up, dude. No, don't do this. Are you gonna play Georgia again? Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
He hasn't responded yet. He just said take a guess.
I'm guessing Georgia.
My guess.
Why else would he say that?
Is Inca? You're gonna be Inca. That's my guess.
I don't know. And then Sean, Ian.
And then Sean, you're the last, but you can't choose until that green Vector Cat chooses his. Come on, Vector Cat. Pressure's on.
We're waiting on you, buddy.
Can you confirm that you're being Georgia? I'm not guessing. You confirm it.
You can put your camera back, I think, now, though.
Oh, yeah. Our special game show's done.
The suspense. Sean, are you here as well? If you are, just pick one that isn't Inca, I guess, because Shark wants Inca. So I guess Vector Cat's playing Inca.
Vector Cat, you're going to choose Inca?
Yeah, I think so. So Sean, you have a choice between Georgia, Korea, and
Georgia, Korea, Scotland.
No, he picked Georgia. He picked Georgia. Okay, now Inca's back and Georgia's out.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. All right.
I saw you chat earlier. Are you still here?
Georgia is yours. Yes, Georgia is yours. Is he? Are you not here, Sean?
I see his name in chat.
There we go. Inca. Yay! So we'll throw up the other details, whether or not it'll be all the modes on or just there's no Russia, so we could put on apocalypse mode. But there's Canada, but they're not immune to blizzards. At the very least, I think we can all agree we're going to do the new dramatic, and and we can do the secret society.
Okay.
I'd honestly be up for doing the shuffle, if we wanted to. It does make the game harder, but I would be up for that too. So if you guys wanted to do what do we call it, ABT or whatever, ABA,
everything but apocalypse.
Everything but apocalypse.
Yeah.
We'll do everything but apocalypse. So that
I've had enough comments destroy my cities.
Yeah, I've had enough. Just even floods. I hate it. No more.
I've had enough feeling powerless as Russia wipes out entire military.
That traumatizing moment for you was what you gave us with Rough Rider Teddy. What? I'm just saying.
I empathize now. I now know that tear that you felt, boy.
Yes.
And I feel deeper as a human being after experiencing the blizzard incident of a couple weeks ago.
Russia. Anyway, we already shouted out our social medias. But
we did. Are we rating?
Yeah, let's raid. Let's go ahead and raid somebody. Stay in the chat if you're in the chat. We're going to show our love to another person in the Civilization community. So let's take a look at who is currently streaming in the Civilization community. Maybe it's going to be someone from the Civ Give. We never know. And we see that Foibles is indeed online. So let's go ahead and say hello to Foibles. He's a really, really nice dude. We're also going to say goodbye to Zoe, apparently, because his Discord crapped out on him. So let's go ahead and raid our good boy Foibles. We will see you guys on Sunday for the next episode of the Community Day of TheCivShow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But right now,
we need like a special blinking Community Day.
Community Day. Anyways, let's go raid Foibles. He's a really nice dude, and let's go say hello to him. We'll see you guys over there. See ya.
Good night.
All right.
Raid now.